The royal ship of the Stellar Dominion wasn't supposed to crash on Earth. The backwater planet was strictly off-limits, a primitive world with beings barely capable of reaching their own moon. But when a rogue asteroid storm disabled the vessel's propulsion system, Queen Lara found herself plummeting toward the blue planet with no means of escape. "Brace for impact," shouted Commander Vex as warning lights flashed throughout the command deck. The Queen's personal guard surrounded her, but as the ship hit Earth's atmosphere at the wrong angle, the heat shields began to fail. A secondary explosion ripped through the vessel, separating the command module from the rest of the ship. Queen Lyra awoke to the smell of burning metal. Her ornate exoskeleton was cracked, blue blood seeping from a gash in her thorax. The command module had crashed in a dense forest, far from human settlements according to the ship's damage scanners. Most of her guards lay dead or unconscious around her. Only she had survived relatively intact, a testament to the royal bioengineering that had made the royal family superior to common members of their species. A fire was spreading. With her extensive injuries, the Queen could barely move. Her breathing apparatus, necessary in Earth's oxygen-rich environment, was failing. As darkness crept into her vision, she heard something approaching, heavy footsteps crushing underbrush. Jack had been tracking a deer when he saw what looked like a falling star crash into the forest 5 miles from his cabin. As a former military medic who'd chosen a life of solitude after 3 tours of duty, his curiosity got the better of him. What he found wasn't a meteorite, but twisted metal-bearing symbols unlike anything he'd ever seen. And inside, creatures that looked like nothing from Earth. Insectoid beings with iridescent exoskeletons and multiple limbs. Most appeared dead, but one was different, larger, with elaborate patterns on its carapace that seemed almost ceremonial, and it was still breathing. "Easy now," Jack whispered, approaching slowly. The creature's 6-fingered hand reached toward a device on its face that was sparking and failing. Some kind of breather, acting on instinct. Jack pulled his emergency kit from his backpack and grabbed his portable oxygen tank. With careful movements, he improvised a connection between his respirator mask and what appeared to be the creature's breathing apparatus. The effect was immediate. The being's movements became less erratic, and its large, compound eyes focused on him. Across the galaxy, King Moro of the Stellar Dominion received the news with stunned disbelief. His queen's ship had disappeared from long-range scanners, last tracked heading toward the prohibited zone containing Earth. "Prepare my vessel," he commanded, "and assemble the armada." If humans had harmed his queen, their entire species would pay. The Dominion had avoided Earth not out of respect, but convenience. Why bother conquering such an insignificant world? But now, there would be no mercy. Back on Earth, Jack carried the wounded alien queen to his cabin. He determined quickly that she was female, or at least appeared so, and her elaborate attire suggested importance. Her wounds were severe but not beyond treatment, though her biology was unlike anything in his medical training. For 3 days, Queen Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness. When lucid, she watched as the human meticulously cleaned her wounds and improvised treatments. He created a mixture of Earth antibiotics that somehow didn't kill her and had repaired her breathing apparatus using parts from his own equipment. By the 4th day, she could communicate through a basic translation device that had survived the crash. "Why help me?" she asked. "Your kind fears the unknown." Jack shrugged as he changed a bandage on her thorax. "Maybe something do. I've seen enough of the world to know fear doesn't help anybody. Living thing in trouble, you help. Simple as that." Queen Lyra studied this primitive being. His technology was rudimentary, yet he'd saved her life using nothing but simple tools, and what she now understood was uncommon intelligence for his species. "My mate comes," she warned him. "He will bring destruction. You should flee." Jack smiled. "I'm not leaving you until you're healed. We'll figure the rest out together." On the 7th day, the skies above Earth darkened as the Dominion Armada arrived. King Moro's flagship descended toward the tracker embedded in Queen Lyra's royal carapace. Jack looked up at the massive vessel hovering above his cabin and stood his ground, unarmed. When the king emerged, surrounded by elite guards with weapons trained on the human, Jack simply nodded a greeting. "Your queen's inside." She's still recovering, but she'll be okay. I've written down everything I did to treat her. Wasn't sure if your people would have the same medicines, but thought it might help." The king stared in disbelief at this fragile being who showed no fear. "You helped her?" "Anyone would have," Jack replied, though both knew that wasn't true. Inside, Queen Lara had managed to stand. Seeing her mate, she raised her primary arms in greeting. "This human saved me when he could have left me to die. He used his own breathing device to keep me alive." King Moro's mandibles twitched, a sign of extreme emotion among their kind. "Impossible. These beings are primitive, selfish creatures." "Perhaps," the queen replied, "we have misjudged them. This one shows what they might become." The king approached Jack, towering over him. The guards tensed, ready to fire. "The Dominion owes you a debt," the king said finally. "Name your reward." Jack thought for a moment. "Just leave Earth alone. We're figuring things out still. Give us time." The king tilted his head, studying Jack with new interest. "You ask nothing for yourself?" "Got everything I need," Jack said, gesturing to his simple cabin and the forest beyond. That night, before departing, Queen Lyra left a small device with Jack. "If you ever need the Dominion's aid," she told him, "activate this." As the alien ships disappeared into the stars, Jack returned to his quiet life, forever changed. And in the far reaches of space, the Stellar Dominion classified Earth as protected territory, not because of fear or convenience, but because of a glimpse of humanity's potential seen through one simple act of compassion.